Everyone knows that I adore a great creature taming game. In my efforts to satiate my desire for more games of this genre, outside the realm of Ni no Kuni and Pokemon, I have come across some excellent hidden gems. The best of which is a massively underrated Pokemon Sword and Shield-esque game called Nexomon. This vibrantly colourful world under the dominion of the merciless Nexo Lord and his overseers offers a unique and fresh monster taming gaming experience, despite its glaring similarities to Pokemon. First of all, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company don't own the gaming genre of monster taming, okay? Pokemon is merely the most successful and recognisable example of a game of this type. So there will inevitably be a lot of comparisons made. Craig says Nexomon is the closest he's ever seen to a Pokemon game, but there are many things that make Nexomon arguably superior, and lots of differences that could confuse prospective Nexomon champions. So today, I want to go over a few great tips for beginners, and if you haven't played this game, you really should consider it because it is awesome. Hello, I'm Heather at Amalgamingle, and here are 6 things I wish I knew before playing Nexomon. Despite preconceptions of games like this, Nexomon is not a grindy game at all, and it is a lot more simplistic when it comes to battling, catching, levelling up and evolving Nexomon. There's no breeding, complicated Nexomon relationship matrices, no special evolution requirements, no crafting or alchemy, and no need to excessively grind. Even at times when you need to level up, it doesn't feel like grinding because it's so enjoyable. You don't need to spend ages in a single area of grass grinding XP like Craig does because his brain is Pokemon trained. Craig says he likes to have all his Nexomon the same level, but forget him, I've played this game more than him. Anyways, don't get me wrong, there are some big difficulty spikes. Not on the same level as Ni no Kuni, but having appropriately levelled Nexomon can give you the advantage. I got very far in the game, I think the 3rd Nexomon champion, having no Nexomon higher than level 30. Unlike in Pokemon, where if your Pokemon are too high a level, they start scratching their asses when given an order, I've seen no evidence that overleveled Nexomon disobey. So, if you want to grind, then by all means, but trust me, it's unnecessary. Participating in a healthy number of battles from point A to point B should be enough. Pro tip, if you do want or need to level up a specific Nexomon, place the underleveled Nexomon in the first party leader slot and send it out in battle to die against a higher level enemy. Stay with me on this because this is a huge exploit. Because it's now unconscious, the Nexomon in the 2nd slot, a higher level one, will be sent out first in future battles until the leader Nexomon is revived, and the underleveled and unconscious leader will still get the higher leader XP. I've quickly levelled up multiple level 5 Nexomon by simply pitting them against level 30 foes. It sounds mean using them as initial cannon fodder, but it's much easier and quicker than swapping them out mid-battle or trying to win battles using an underleveled Nexomon. Most towns have a shop and a healing centre, but there are items and sporadic healers dotted about in the wilds. From the very start of the game, you will begin to notice little twinkle spots scattered around the overworld that you can pick up and pocket the item. This is similar to how overworld items are displayed in games such as Final Fantasy XV and Ni no Kuni. Something you might not know if you didn't pay attention to a tiny part of easily missable dialogue is that there are hidden items dotted all around the world. For example, if you go up to a random tree stump and press the action button, you might find something good. I can't say for sure how frequent the hidden items are since I've not gone through the game hugging the walls and spamming the X button, but I have found a fair few. As well as normal and hidden items, there are also special items. Instead of having accessories for Nexomon to equip, like in Pokemon and Ni no Kuni, your character can gain equipable special items comparable to Sacramentals in East 9 and artifacts in East Memories of Celceta, whereby they grant some excellent perks. In Nexomon, you can equip several special items at once which enable boons such as Nexoskates that increase walking speed, Repel Spray to avoid wild encounters, and EXP Share that distributes XP equally across all Nexomon in your party. Normally XP is an uneven priority based distribution, And by this I mean the amount of XP gained for each Nexomon in the party depends on which slot they have been assigned, the first and second slots receiving the most XP. Craig says, "Oh my god, it's way too easy for people these days. As an OG Pokemon master, you will never know the pain of true grind, and will you desist? This is my video." Cheeky bugger. Note that you do get money for every Nexomon wild encounter, so if you need money, simply look for some wiggling grass and pocket the reward. Without giving away spoilers, there are a lot of important mechanics introduced fairly late in the game. For example, the activation of those warp totems you keep being teased with throughout the game. I only unlocked them after playing for 18 hours. Nexomon has an excellent story, no side questing, and like I previously mentioned, it's not a hard game, so I would advise following the main story as far as you can with your Nexomon A-team, battling and catching the Nexomon you encounter on the way to store away. If you play the Pokemon games, then that should give you an idea of what's ahead, and those who play Ni no Kuni will be all too familiar with the slow rollout of important gameplay mechanics. I mean, that game is so huge that you can't even tame familiars until you complete the Temple of Trials, and this is after the Motorville intro, Rolling Hills, Deep Dark Woods, Ding Dong Dell, Motorville again, Ding Dong Well, Golden Grove, Shimmering Sands, Alma Moon and Motorville again. Games like Nexomon are meant to be played at a slower pace, but that also means that rewards are doled out at a slower pace than normal games. I would just be mindful of that. Sorry this tip is kind of vague, but I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. Just make sure that you stock up on Nexo traps, potions and revives, and that your Nexomon party levels can rival the level of the wild Nexomon in the area you find yourself in, and you should be fine. There are 7 different Nexomon types in the game: normal, wind, plant, mineral, electric, fire and water. Naturally, each are strong and weak against other Nexomon types. Besides normal type, which is neutral and has no resistances or weaknesses, the other 6 types can give you an advantage over certain opponents. Having a small number of types makes it easier to remember, and the relationships reflect real life. Fire is advantageous against plant and wind, but is seriously disadvantaged against water and mineral. Water is strong against fire and mineral, but weak against electric and plant. Plant is strong against water and electric, but is at a disadvantage against fire and wind. Wind has an advantage over plant and mineral, but is weak against electric and fire. Electric can own water and wind types, but are useless against mineral and plant. And mineral types are great against fire and electric, but are kinda useless against water and wind. Like Ni no Kuni, the type resistances and vulnerabilities can be undermined if your Nexomon is overleveled, and then it can just destroy everything in its path despite its type. Each Nexomon has 12 skills that progressively unlock when you reach the specified level. Skills can correspond to the Nexomon's type or be an alternative type of skill. For example, a wind Nexomon type could have normal, wind and electric skills, for example, the legendary Luhava. A Nexomon can equip 4 skills at once, and it's always a good idea to have one skill equipped that is not the same type as the Nexomon's type. One of the many things that I love about this game is that since there are 7 different Nexomon types, you get to choose between 7 different starter Nexomon to represent each type. This is something I wish Pokemon did, instead of only allowing you to choose between just 3 starters of grass, fire and water all the time. As well as types, Nexomon also have an assigned rarity that is unrelated to their type. There's common, uncommon, rare, mega rare, special and legendary. This relates to base stats and how frequent you will encounter them in the wild. In Nexomon, you get to pick between the following creatures of special rarity for your starter. First is Volase, a snooty looking fox-like creature classed as normal with an early growth rate evolving at level 16. Although Volase is a great Nexomon partner, I would not choose this as a starter because he can be caught in the starting areas of the game anyway. There's Sprunk, an adorable dog-like fire Nexomon that evolves at level 17 and has some impressive skills. A serious contender as a starter since you won't come across a fire Nexomon early game. There's Bevy, who represents the water type in this lineup as a chipmunk-esque creature who evolves at level 17 and has decent stats. A good contender for a starter, however, water Nexomon are available early game. Naturally, you will also come across a lot of plant Nexomon early game, so it's for this reason that I would not choose Petril, the plant starter. There's Velokitty, an electric feline Nexomon, which is very cute, however, it has very low HP, and to be honest, electric are kinda useless. It's better to have a different type of Nexomon in your team with an electric skill to fill this shortfall. There's Fethra, which is a fuzzy snake-like wind Nexomon that has good stats and evolves at level 16. A good starter choice considering the common early game wind type options. Although I still wouldn't choose Fethra as my starter, the reasons for which I will get into later. The final starter choice is Blizzo, who looks like an astronaut creature and represents the mineral Nexomon in this lineup. This is a solid starter with great stats. It can be found in the first cave area but is quite rare to come across. Nexomon Extinction introduces Ghost and Psychic as Nexomon types, but sadly those aren't featured in the first game. Blizzo, Fethra, Bevy and Sprunk are all great starters with decent stats, and you won't come across any of them until a little later on in the game, apart from Blizzo, who can be found in the first cave as I previously mentioned. However, there are a few more things to consider when making your decision, which brings me nicely to my final tip. With over 300 different Nexomon, there is a lot of choice for your dream team. Like Pokemon, you can have 6 Nexomon in your party at once and participate in 2D animated turn-based battles against wild Nexomon, other tamers and champions. Nexomon that are not part of your team are stored away in your Nexomon storage. They can be accessed again at a computer at any healing centre. For my final tip, I want to go over a few Nexomon that can be found in the Parum, early area of the game that can form your early A-team. If you are patient, you can encounter Fleecius, which is an excellent mega rare normal type Nexomon. Despite its fairly late growth rate evolving at level 32, this goatish Nexomon can really pack a punch from the get-go. Its headbutt move can cause confusion and is a useful status ailment to trigger straight out of the gate with a high success rate. Couple this with a punch or kick over the next few turns while your foe is disabled and it's a guaranteed win. There's a few different normal type Nexomon you can come across fairly early, most notably Vulese, Alpoka and Baston, but none can rival Fleecius. So, with one slot in your party taken up by your starter and the second slot filled by Fleecius, I would run around the Parum Wild until you come across a rare Owly wind Nexomon. You'll encounter a lot of Hobbins in this area since they are a common wind type, but Owly is worth holding out for providing you don't choose Fethra as your starter. Owly is arguably better than Fethra, so you might find you end up switching out Fethra in favour of Owly fairly early. When it comes to early game plant types, you will come across Dandelion and Saxia almost straight away. Saxia is common in rarity and Dandelion is uncommon. Saxia is not known to evolve from or into any other form, but Dandelion evolves at level 24 and is the superior choice of a plant Nexomon. For the next slot on your team, I would consider Purlio. Purlio is a common water type encountered early on that can hold its own in battle. Now that you have fire, water, plant, normal and wind, you have most bases covered. When you reach the first cave after defeating the first Overseer, you gain access to mineral and electric types, and this is where you can catch Blizzo to round off your A-team, who is basically a tank. So, there's 6 things I wish I knew before playing Nexomon. It really is a brilliant game that is so underrated, and at a digital price of $7.99 right now, or $14.99 for a physical copy of the first Nexomon and Nexomon Extinction on Amazon, you can't really go wrong, especially if you love these kinds of games as much as I do. If you have played Nexomon, let me know in the comments what you think, and let us know if you have any other tips that I've not mentioned. Let's get the word out that Nexomon is fantastic. I've been Heather at Amalgamingle, and thank you very much for watching.